The iron gates of the royal selection hall slammed shut behind me. "You have one last chance," the High Chancellor declared, his voice echoing across the marble chamber. "Reveal your true identity." Hundreds of eyes settled on me. The 7 queen candidates stood on the elevated platform, dressed in ceremonial white, each carrying the crystal seal that would determine the kingdom's future ruler. Their expressions were different: curiosity, contempt, amusement, but all waited for the same answer. I lowered my head. "I have nothing to reveal." Laughter erupted. A nameless attendant. A coward. He sneaked into the selection festival hoping to become famous. One noble even applauded sarcastically. The Chancellor's face darkened. "You forged an invitation." "I did not." "You refuse to identify your bloodline." "I refuse." The silence afterward felt heavier than chains. Then the first queen candidate, Lady Seraphine, suddenly stiffened. Her silver eyes widened. "What?" She wasn't looking at me. She was staring somewhere beyond me. A translucent image shimmered in the air for only a heartbeat. Me, standing beside the empty throne, placing a crown on no one's head, walking away alone. The vision disappeared. Seraphine stumbled backward. "What did you just see?" another candidate whispered. Before she could answer, the second candidate gasped. Then the third. Then the fourth. One after another, every queen candidate froze. Each looked horrified. The nobles noticed immediately. "What is happening?" The Chancellor frowned. "My lady." Seraphine slowly lifted a trembling finger toward me. "He." Her voice shook. "I just saw his future." The hall exploded into chaos. "I demand an explanation. There are illusionists. This is treason." Voices overlapped until they became meaningless noise. I remained perfectly still. Inside, however, my heartbeat hammered against my ribs. It happened. Again. Not because I expected it. Because I feared it. 3 years ago, the Oracle of Ashes had spoken only one sentence to me. "The day 7 queens can witness your unchosen paths, every secret buried beneath your name will begin to awaken." I had spent those years making myself invisible. No family crest. No title. No estate. No achievements worth remembering. Every invitation to noble banquets had been declined. Every recommendation destroyed before reaching the palace. The safest man was the unnoticed man. Until today, the Chancellor struck the marble floor with his staff. Silence. Gradually, the chamber quieted. He turned towards Seraphine. "What exactly did you witness?" She swallowed. "I saw him refusing the throne." Murmurs spread. Another candidate interrupted. "No." Lady Morel shook her head violently. "I saw him ordering the royal guard." "Impossible." "I saw him burning the royal seal. I saw him saving the capital. I saw him leaving the kingdom forever." Each candidate described an entirely different future. None matched. None had happened. Yet every one of them felt undeniably real. The Chancellor looked toward me as though seeing me for the first time. "Who are you?" I already answered. "No." His tone hardened. "You avoided the question." I met his gaze. "I have no title." I asked who you are. And I answered truthfully. For the first time since entering the palace, uncertainty crossed the Chancellor's face. Because he could hear the words. Yet somehow, they felt incomplete. Lady Celestine descended from the platform. Unlike the others, she moved calmly. She stopped only 2 steps away. "You knew this would happen." It wasn't a question. I remained silent. "You hid yourself on purpose." Silence again. She studied my face carefully, not searching for fear, searching for confirmation. "You've been avoiding every royal examination. You rejected military service. You refused noble sponsorship. You erased your own records." Each statement landed like another stone dropped into still water. Someone had investigated me. Thoroughly. "You've been watching me?" I finally asked. She smiled faintly. "No. I've been watching what disappears." Those words chilled me more than accusations ever could. Only someone exceptionally observant would notice missing patterns instead of visible ones. She continued softly. "A man doesn't accidentally erase himself." Around us, nobles whispered nervously. The queen candidates no longer looked at me with disdain. Now they looked concerned, as if every future they witnessed carried the same invisible warning. A warning none of them fully understood. Then Lady Seraphine spoke again. There was one thing identical. Everyone turned. In every vision. She hesitated. Someone betrayed him. The chamber fell silent once more. I closed my eyes briefly. So even futures not yet chosen still carried betrayal. Perhaps destiny truly disliked repetition. Or perhaps people never changed. The Chancellor ordered the palace seers into the hall within minutes. Ancient mirrors were arranged around me. Runes ignited. Mana flowed through the floor. An old seer stepped forward. Reveal his origin. Nothing happened. Another spell. Nothing. A stronger ritual. The mirrors cracked simultaneously. The old man staggered backward, blood dripping from his nose. I cannot read him. Shock spread faster than wildfire. No lineage. No destiny thread. No divine record. The oldest seer in the kingdom whispered something no one expected. It is as though he stared directly at me. He erased himself before heaven could write his name. The selection hall was no longer a ceremony. It had become an interrogation. Yet no one dared approach within 3 steps of me anymore. Fear had replaced arrogance. Not because I had threatened anyone. Because uncertainty frightened powerful people more than enemies ever could. The Chancellor dismissed most of the spectators, but the Queen candidates remained. So, he said carefully, until this matter is understood, you will remain inside the palace. I decline. His eyebrows rose. You are not being asked. I still decline. Royal guards shifted uneasily. Hands moved toward sword hilts. Lady Celestine raised one hand. No. The guard stopped instantly. The Chancellor looked irritated. This man may represent a national threat. Or our greatest answer, she replied. You trust him? I trust reactions. She turned toward me. You haven't asked what we saw. She was right. I hadn't. Because I was afraid the answers would influence choices I hadn't made. The future changes, I said quietly. Exactly. So your visions mean nothing. Her eyes narrowed. Then why are you avoiding them? I had no answer she would accept. That evening, I was escorted, not imprisoned, to an isolated residence within the palace gardens. No chains. No locked doors. Only invisible surveillance. Every servant pretended not to watch me. Every gardener suddenly found reasons to trim bushes outside my windows. Every guard looked away whenever I noticed them. The palace had become a cage built from politeness. I poured tea into a single cup. Footsteps approached. A knock. Come in. Lady Morel entered alone. Unlike the others, she wore no jewels. Only a simple dark cloak. I shouldn't be here, she admitted. Then leave. She laughed softly. They said you'd answer like that. She sat without permission. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, she asked, Did you really erase yourself? I stopped introducing myself. That's different. Not for long enough. She studied the steam rising from her cup. In my vision, she hesitated. You saved my life. I remained expressionless. But afterward, you disappeared. I haven't done either. I know. Silence stretched between us. Do you know what's terrifying? She whispered. I saw the relief on my own face when you left. I frowned. Relief? As though staying near you would destroy everything. She looked directly into my eyes. And somehow, I still wanted to stop you. Those words lingered after she departed. Near midnight, I stepped into the moonlit garden. The palace was quiet. Almost too quiet. A masked figure emerged from behind the cypress trees. No guard reacted, which meant either they hadn't noticed, or they were pretending not to. You came, the stranger said. You sent the letter. I sent curiosity. His voice belonged to an older man. You've hidden well. Not well enough. No. He chuckled. 7 futures opened at once. So you've heard. I've been waiting. The stranger removed his mask. An elderly scholar. Not a noble. Not a soldier. I recognized him instantly. Master Rowan. The former keeper of forbidden archives. Officially retired. Unofficially forgotten. You know the prophecy, I said. I wrote half of it. The world seemed to stop. You? The oracle merely finished my research. He looked toward the palace towers. They think the queens saw your future. They didn't. No. He smiled sadly. They saw their own kingdoms. I felt something cold settle inside me. What do you mean? You are not the center of those visions. Then why me? Because every choice you make changes who becomes queen. I stared at him. He continued. They weren't watching your destiny. They were watching the price of theirs. Before I could respond, arrows sliced through the darkness. Master Rowan shoved me aside. One arrow buried itself deep into his shoulder. Another struck the tree behind us. Masked assassins surrounded the garden. 8. No. 10. Their leader spoke calmly. The witness lives too long. Rowan pressed a bloodstained scroll into my hand. Run. I won't leave you. You already stayed hidden for years. His voice hardened. Don't waste that sacrifice. Steel flashed beneath the moonlight. The assassins advanced. For the first time in years, I reached for the sword I had sworn never to draw again. The first assassin lunged without a word. Moonlight slid across his curved blade as it cut toward my throat. For 3 years, I had hidden every trace of the man I used to be. 3 years without drawing a sword. 3 years convincing the world that I was nothing more than an insignificant traveler who avoided attention. Tonight, that lie ended. I caught Master Rowan before he collapsed. Can you stand? He clenched his teeth, snapped the arrow shaft, and forced a bitter smile. For another minute. That's enough. I slipped the bloodstained scroll inside my coat. The assassins spread into a half circle. Professionals. No wasted movement. No unnecessary threats. Their leader tilted his head. So the ghost remembers how to fight. I've never met you. You don't remember us. He smiled beneath the black mask. But someone remembers you. Before I could question him further, 2 assassins attacked from opposite sides. I stepped backward instead of forward. One sword missed my shoulder by a finger's width. The second attacker expected panic. Instead, I let him overextend. A twist. A single strike against his wrist. His weapon clattered onto the stone path. I didn't kill him. I kicked the sword away. His own companion crashed into him. The formation broke. Master Rowan watched silently. You've become slower. I wanted to, but not weak. No. The leader narrowed his eyes. He refuses to kill. One assassin laughed. That makes this easier. He was wrong. People often mistook restraint for inability. Steel rang through the garden. 3 opponents attacked together. Instead of meeting strength with strength, I gave them space. Each missed attack forced another to adjust. Within seconds, they were blocking one another. One stumbled. Another lost balance. I struck the ground with the flat of my blade. Dust erupted. For one heartbeat. Nobody could see. When the dust settled, I was standing beside Rowan again. Every assassin had been pushed back without a fatal wound. The leader slowly clapped. So it's true. What is? You really abandoned that path. I abandoned many things. His voice became cold. But not your instincts. He raised one hand. The remaining assassins stopped attacking. Withdraw. One of them frowned. We almost have him. No. The leader stared directly into my eyes. We confirmed what we came for. Before disappearing into the darkness, he spoke one final sentence. The queens aren't the only ones watching your choices anymore. The garden became silent. Only Rowan's uneven breathing remained. Royal guards finally rushed into the garden. Too late. Far too late. Captain Aldrin surveyed the broken stone, discarded weapons, and wounded assassins who had been abandoned by their companions. You fought them alone? I defended myself. He looked around. Where are the others? Gone. His expression tightened. 12 elite guards patrol this garden every night. Rowan laughed weakly. Apparently, they were elsewhere. Aldrin's jaw stiffened. Someone inside the palace had delayed the guards. That much was obvious. He turned toward me. His Majesty's Council requests your presence immediately. I'll come after the physician treats him. Now. No. The refusal stunned everyone. Even Rowan looked sideways at me. Captain Aldrin stepped closer. That wasn't a request. I met his eyes calmly. And this isn't a negotiation. For several tense seconds, nobody moved. Finally, Aldrin exhaled. Very well. It was the first time in years that someone from the Royal Guard had backed down first. Word would spread before sunrise. An hour later, Rowan lay unconscious inside the palace infirmary. The royal physician carefully removed the poisoned arrowhead. His expression darkened. This poison, you recognize it? I wish I didn't. He lowered his voice. It was outlawed 25 years ago. Who used it? The King's Shadow Division. I stared at him. That division was dissolved. Officially. He looked around before whispering. If those assassins carried royal poison, someone inside the palace ordered tonight's attack. The council chamber felt colder than the garden. 7 queen candidates stood together. The chancellor waited beside the circular table. No nobles. No spectators. Only those directly involved. He folded his hands. Someone attempted to assassinate a royal guest. I noticed. His eyes twitched. Your sarcasm is unnecessary. So was your delayed security. Silence. Lady Seraphine looked toward Captain Aldrin. He lowered his head slightly. He knew. Everyone here knew. The guards had arrived far too late. The Chancellor changed the subject. The Queens experienced another vision. Every candidate looked uneasy. What did you see? No one answered. Finally, Celestine spoke. This time, we saw your sword. I slowly looked down at the weapon resting beside my chair. It wasn't this sword. What then? She hesitated. It was broken. A strange feeling settled in my chest. Another future. Another possibility. Morel added quietly. And every time it broke, someone wearing a crown smiled. No one spoke for several moments. The silence was heavier than any accusation. The Chancellor finally broke it. Until these incidents are understood, none of the Queen candidates will leave the palace. Lady Seraphine frowned. You're imprisoning us? I'm protecting the succession. Celestine looked toward me instead. No. He's protecting information. The Chancellor didn't deny it. Instead, he placed a sealed document onto the table. Our investigators searched every registry in the kingdom. He slid the parchment toward me. Your name doesn't exist. I know. Every tax record. Yes. Military archive. I expected that. Birth registry. I remained silent. His voice became quieter. You erased yourself completely. Morel couldn't hide her disbelief. Why? I looked out the tall palace window. Rain had begun to fall. Because names become chains. Nobody understood. Not completely. Except Rowan. Years ago, he had shown me something hidden inside the forbidden archives. A list. Not of citizens. Of people who had disappeared after entering the struggle for the throne. Every one of them had one thing in common. The moment their identities became valuable, they became targets. So I had done the impossible. I made myself worthless. A servant hurried into the chamber. Pardon the interruption. What is it? The Chancellor asked. The crystal of succession. It has awakened. Every face changed. Impossible. It has remained dormant for decades. The servant swallowed nervously. It is calling for someone. The council moved immediately. Deep beneath the palace rested the crystal chamber. A transparent pillar of ancient crystal rose from the center of the room. Legends claimed it never chose kings. It merely reflected the balance of the kingdom. Tonight, silver light flowed through countless cracks. As we entered, the entire chamber vibrated. Every queen candidate instinctively reached toward the crystal. Nothing happened. Then, the light shifted. Toward me. I didn't move. Neither did the crystal. It simply continued glowing. The high priest overseeing the chamber whispered. It recognizes him. The Chancellor's face turned pale. How? No record exists. The priest slowly shook his head. The crystal does not read records. It reads consequences. Before anyone could ask what that meant, the light suddenly split into 7 beams. Each beam connected to one queen candidate. Then all 7 converged. Back toward me. The room trembled violently. The visions returned. This time, every candidate cried out simultaneously. Seraphine fell to one knee. Morel covered her ears. Celestine's usually calm face finally cracked with fear. What did you see? I asked. No one answered. Finally, Seraphine whispered. We were wrong. About what? It isn't your future. My heartbeat slowed. What is it then? She looked directly at me. It's every future. That disappears if you die. A freezing silence consumed the chamber. Even the Chancellor forgot to breathe. Before anyone could react, a loud crack echoed overhead. The crystal of succession, the artifact that had survived centuries, split down the middle. Its light vanished. Darkness swallowed the chamber. Somewhere beyond the walls of the palace, a bell began ringing. Once, twice, 3 times. The emergency bell, the signal reserved for only one circumstance. The capital itself was under attack. The first bell had barely faded when the second tower answered. Then the third. Within moments, every watchtower across the capital was ringing in unison. The sound rolled through the palace like thunder. Captain Aldrin burst into the crystal chamber. The eastern gate has fallen. The Chancellor stared at him. To whom? We don't know. You don't know? The attackers aren't carrying any banners. Panic flickered across the faces of several officials. An army without a banner was more terrifying than an enemy kingdom. It meant someone wanted victory without responsibility. I looked at the shattered crystal. 7 thin streams of silver light still drifted from its broken heart before fading into the air. Master Rowan's words echoed inside my mind. They weren't watching your destiny. They were watching the price of theirs. The visions had changed. Not because fate had changed, because someone had forced the kingdom closer to one of those possible futures. The palace erupted into motion. Servants ran through the corridors. Messengers sprinted toward the command halls. Nobles who had mocked me only hours earlier now pushed past each other in fear. I stepped aside, allowing them to rush by. For years, I had solved problems before anyone noticed they existed. Not anymore. If I intervened every time, nothing would ever change. Consequences had to belong to those who created them. Captain Aldrin caught up to me. You understand battle formations. I understand survival. The eastern defenses are collapsing. I'm aware. Then help us. I met his exhausted eyes. Who delayed your guards tonight? His expression froze. I. Who ordered them away from the garden? Silence. I don't know. Find out. The city is burning. And if the traitor remains inside your command. His shoulders slowly slumped. He understood. Marching blindly into battle while betrayal remained within the palace would only lead to another disaster. I'll investigate, he said quietly. For everyone's sake, I replied. Do it before another gate falls. Lady Celestine caught up with me outside the Hall of Records. You refused him. Yes. You could save thousands. I could. Then why? Rain dripped from the palace roof between us. I answered after a long pause. Have you ever held together a wall that everyone else kept breaking? She frowned. They lean on you. They stop repairing it. And eventually, they forget it was damaged at all. She looked toward the smoke rising beyond the palace walls. You think that's what's happening to this kingdom? I know it is. She was silent. For the first time since meeting her, she wasn't searching for hidden meanings. She was simply listening. A scream echoed from the lower courtyard. We ran toward it. 3 palace servants knelt beside a collapsed messenger. An arrow protruded from his chest. He clutched a leather dispatch tube. Counsel, he gasped. Don't. Blood filled his mouth. He died before finishing the sentence. Celestine carefully removed the sealed document. The royal seal had already been broken. Someone had read it before it reached the palace. She handed it to me. Inside was a list. Not troop movements. Names. 23 names. Every commander assigned to defend the eastern wall. Each had a red mark beside it. I frowned. What does this mean? Captain Aldrin arrived moments later. The moment he saw the list, the color drained from his face. No. You recognize it? He nodded slowly. They're all dead. Within the last hour, every commander, executed almost simultaneously. The eastern wall had not fallen because the enemy was stronger. It had fallen because its leaders had been removed first. Someone inside the kingdom had prepared the invasion long before tonight. Back in the infirmary, Master Rowan finally regained consciousness. His breathing remained weak. When he saw me, relief crossed his face. You still have the scroll? I pulled it from inside my coat. Its edges were stained with his blood. Good. He motioned for everyone else to leave. Only Celestine remained. Rowan didn't object. Instead, he whispered, Open it. The parchment contained no prophecy, no map, no military plans. Only 7 names. Each belonged to one of the queen candidates. Beneath every name was a single sentence. A consequence. Seraphine, the kingdom of iron. Morel, the kingdom of ash. Celestine, the kingdom without chains. The remaining 4 names carried equally cryptic futures. What is this? Celestine asked. Rowan closed his eyes. Possibilities. I don't understand. You will. He looked at me. Every queen creates a different kingdom. I already suspected that. No. His voice hardened. They don't create it alone. Rowan slowly pointed at me. They respond to you. The room fell completely silent. Celestine looked from Rowan to me. What does that mean? Rowan took a painful breath. It was never about choosing a queen. It was always about who influences the one who wins. I looked back at the scroll. Each possible kingdom was different. Not because the candidates were destined to rule differently. Because every decision I made altered who they became. Suddenly the visions made sense. They had never been predictions. They were warnings. A loud knock interrupted us. Captain Aldrin entered carrying a wooden chest. We found this hidden beneath the Eastern Command post. He placed it on the table. The lock had already been broken. Inside lay dozens of sealed letters. Some addressed to generals. Others to ministers. Many had never been delivered. Someone had intercepted official communication for months. Celestine opened one. Her eyes widened. This order was supposed to reinforce the eastern wall. It never arrived, Aldrin said. Another letter. A request for additional grain. Never delivered. Another. A warning about missing weapons. Hidden. Another. Evidence that several nobles had secretly financed private armies. Buried. One by one, the truth emerged. The kingdom had not weakened overnight. It had been quietly dismantled from within. I closed the chest. So that's how they planned tonight. Aldrin nodded grimly. We've been fighting shadows. Before anyone could speak again, the infirmary door opened. Lady Seraphine entered. Her usually elegant appearance was gone. Her dress was stained with ash. The Western market is burning, she said. The people think the palace abandoned them. No one answered. She looked directly at me. I saw another vision. Celestine sighed softly. What happened this time? Seraphine's voice trembled. You left. I remained still. In the vision, you walked through the palace gates. You never looked back. And the kingdom survived. Everyone stared at her. But she swallowed. It survived as something none of us recognized. A kingdom without trust. Without mercy. Without hope. It wasn't destroyed. It was empty. The words lingered in the room. Not every tragedy came with flames. Some came with silence. That evening, I stood alone atop the northern wall. The capital stretched beneath the storm. Smoke drifted across the rooftops. People were still fighting, still hoping someone would save them. Footsteps approached. Captain Aldrin stood beside me. I finished the investigation. And he handed me a folded report. The guards who abandoned the garden received orders bearing my own seal. You didn't issue them. No. Then someone forged your authority. He nodded. I arrested 3 officers. Will that solve it? No. His answer came immediately. They're only pieces. He looked toward the palace. The one giving orders is still inside. Lightning flashed across the sky. For an instant, the palace windows reflected like countless watching eyes. Somewhere in those halls, the true architect of the chaos was still smiling. And for the first time since arriving at the palace, I realized they wanted me alive. Not because they feared me, because my next choice was still useful to them. The rain stopped before dawn. The silence it left behind was more unsettling than the storm. Smoke still rose from the eastern district, but the fighting had slowed. The invaders had vanished almost as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving behind broken gates, burned warehouses, and questions no one could answer. Someone hadn't wanted to conquer the capital. They had wanted to shake it, and they had succeeded. The emergency council assembled before sunrise. This time, every senior minister attended. Military commanders, treasury officials, high priests, the 7 queen candidates, Master Rowan, pale but standing, and me. No one questioned my presence anymore. The chancellor placed both hands on the council table. Someone inside this palace coordinated last night's attack. His voice echoed through the chamber. They intercepted royal messages. They delayed the royal guard. They forged Captain Aldrin's seal. They murdered our eastern commanders. He paused, and they attempted to silence Master Rowan. The room remained still. Every face looked solemn. Every expression looked believable. That was exactly the problem. Traitors rarely looked guilty. Captain Aldrin stepped forward carrying a wooden case. We recovered coded correspondence from the Eastern Command. He placed bundles of letters onto the table. One by one, officials examined them. Several ministers immediately began accusing each other. This signature belongs to the Treasury. It's forged. The wax seal is authentic. The handwriting isn't. Voices rose. Arguments spread. Exactly as the traitor would have wanted. Chaos. I remained silent. Watching. Listening. Patterns revealed themselves only when people forgot they were being observed. Then I noticed something. One minister never spoke. Minister Halden, keeper of internal administration. He neither defended himself nor accused anyone else. Instead, he watched everyone, measuring reactions, counting mistakes. When our eyes met, he smiled politely. Too politely. I looked away as though nothing had happened. Inside, however, a memory surfaced. Years ago, when I first began erasing my identity, every government archive I requested to remove had required approval from exactly one office. His office. Master Rowan suddenly coughed. Blood stained his sleeve. Everyone turned toward him. I remembered something, he said weakly. The prophecy. The chamber became silent. It was incomplete. The chancellor frowned. What do you mean? Rowan slowly reached into his robe and produced a torn parchment. I never wrote the final line. He unfolded it carefully. The faded ink read, "The 7 queens shall witness possibilities." The sentence ended abruptly. There should have been another line. What line? Seraphine asked. Rowan looked around the chamber. I destroyed it. Shock spread immediately. You destroyed part of the prophecy? The high priest exclaimed. Yes. Why? Rowan's tired eyes settled on me. Because it named the betrayer. Every official instinctively stiffened. The chancellor stepped closer. Do you remember the name? Rowan slowly closed his eyes. I remember. He struggled to breathe. A title. What title? The Keeper. His voice failed. He collapsed unconscious. Physicians rushed forward. The council dissolved into confusion. Minister Halden quietly lowered his eyes. Almost no one noticed. I did. After the meeting ended, Celestine found me in the palace library. Thousands of books surrounded us. Dust floated through shafts of morning light. You suspect someone. I do. Who? I don't know yet. She folded her arms. That's not true. I smiled faintly. You've become observant. You've become predictable. She stepped closer. You're protecting your evidence. I'm protecting the wrong person from escaping. She studied me for several long seconds. Then she whispered, You think the traitor knows we're close. I know he does. So what now? We let him believe we're still searching. That afternoon I requested access to the Royal Archive. Minister Halden personally escorted me. Strange, he said pleasantly. I never imagined someone without a recorded identity would request official documents. I enjoy irony. He laughed. A practiced laugh. The kind that revealed nothing. Rows upon rows of ancient records filled the underground chamber. Birth certificates, land grants, military rosters, everything that defined a person's existence. Halden spread his arms. You wish to see the archives? I did. What exactly are you searching for? Myself. His smile remained unchanged. I'm afraid you won't find what doesn't exist. Perhaps. I walked slowly through the shelves. Every few steps I stopped, examined a ledger, returned it, until finally, I reached an empty space. A gap. One shelf held dust everywhere except a single clean rectangle. A book had recently been removed. I touched the clean wood. When was this ledger taken? Halden answered without hesitation. There was never a ledger there. I looked at the dust on his sleeve. Fresh gray powder. The same color as the missing shelf. He had moved it himself. I said nothing. Instead, I smiled. Halden smiled back. Two polite men standing in a silent archive. Neither acknowledging the truth both had just discovered. Thank you for your time, I said. Any time. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. People often confessed more when they believed they had succeeded. That evening, I visited Captain Aldrin. I need a favor. His expression immediately became serious. What is it? Spread a rumor. He blinked. A rumor? Tell the palace that Rowan remembered the missing name. He didn't. I know. And the name? Don't give one. Aldrin slowly understood. You want the traitor to panic. I want him to make a mistake. The rumor spread faster than expected. By midnight, nearly every servant whispered the same story. Master Rowan had regained his memory. The betrayer's identity would be revealed at tomorrow's council. The palace did what palaces always did. It talked. Some laughed. Some worried. Some packed valuables. One person acted. Just before dawn, a hooded figure entered the royal archive. He carried a lantern with its flame carefully covered. He moved directly toward the empty shelf. Not searching. Knowing. He pressed against the wooden wall. A hidden compartment opened. Inside rested the missing ledger. Before he could remove it, the lantern illuminated another face. Mine. The hooded figure froze. So, I said quietly, it really was hidden here. He slowly lowered his hood. Minister Halden. His calm smile had disappeared. You planned this. No. I observed. He laughed bitterly. That's even worse. He held the ledger tightly. You know what this book contains. I have an idea. It contains every identity erased by the crown. A cold silence filled the archive. Not criminals. Not traitors. People. People whose names had been intentionally removed from history. My fingers tightened. So I wasn't the first. No. You merely repeated an old tradition. Halden looked almost relieved. The kingdom has always erased inconvenient people. And who decides they're inconvenient? The throne. Footsteps echoed outside. Captain Aldrin and dozens of royal guards surrounded the archive. Holden heard them. He smiled sadly. You still don't understand. What? I wasn't protecting myself. He threw the ledger into the fireplace. Flames consumed the ancient pages. I lunged forward, pulling the burning book free with my bare hands. Half the pages survived. Half turned to ash. The guards seized Holden. He offered no resistance. As they led him away, he looked directly at me. I was only the keeper. My heartbeat slowed. The keeper of what? He answered without hesitation. The names. And who gave you those names? For the first time, fear crossed his face. Not fear of prison. Fear of answering. He lowered his voice until only I could hear. You've been searching for the wrong crown. Before I could question him further, a sharp crack echoed through the archive. An arrow burst through the stained glass window. It struck Holden squarely in the throat. He collapsed instantly, dead before he hit the floor. The assassin had silenced him. I rushed to the shattered window. The rooftop opposite was already empty. Only one thing remained. A black feather pinned beneath the broken arrow. Master Rowan had once shown me that symbol in an ancient manuscript. The emblem of a forgotten organization. The Silent Court. The people who erased names. Before kingdoms even remembered they existed. The archive still smelled of smoke when dawn broke. Holden's body had been covered with a white cloth. The burned ledger rested on a stone table between Captain Aldrin, Lady Celestine, Master Rowan, and me. No one touched it. The surviving pages were blackened at the edges, their ink blurred by heat and water. Master Rowan broke the silence. We were fortunate. I looked at him. Fortunate. Half survived. I ran my fingers carefully across one page. Names. Hundreds of them. Some had been crossed out. Some carried dates. Others bore only a single word beside them. Removed. Not executed. Not exiled. Removed. As though they had never existed. A strange calm settled over me. For years, I had believed erasing my identity was my own desperate decision. Now I understood the truth. I had unknowingly followed the footsteps of countless forgotten people. Captain Aldrin unfolded another surviving page. There are symbols besides several names. Master Rowan nodded. They indicate influence. In what sense? The greater someone's ability to change the kingdom, the sooner the Silent Court erased them. Celestine frowned. They weren't hunting criminals. No, they hunted possibilities. The realization chilled the room. The Silent Court had never served justice. They served stability. A kingdom where nothing truly changed. A messenger entered hurriedly. The citizens are gathering outside the palace. Why? They're demanding answers. About the attack. The messenger shook his head. They're asking about him. He pointed toward me. The rumors spread. What rumors? That someone inside the palace prevented an even greater disaster. Captain Aldrin sighed. They've started calling him the Hidden Guardian. I closed my eyes briefly. Exactly what I had spent years avoiding. Recognition. Outside the palace gates, thousands of citizens waited. Merchants, blacksmiths, teachers, children, families whose homes had survived only because the fighting ended before reaching their streets. The Chancellor stepped onto the balcony first. The crowd barely reacted. Then Captain Aldrin appeared. Polite applause. Finally, someone shouted my description. The man in the gray coat. Heads turned. Voices spread through the crowd. It's him. The hidden one. The man from the selection hall. I remained behind the palace doors. I had no intention of feeding another legend. Celestine stood beside me. You won't go? No. They only want to thank you. I didn't save them. You helped. I refused to become another symbol. She studied my face. You're afraid. Yes. Of fame. No. Then what? Of becoming necessary. She understood. If the kingdom began believing one man would always appear to solve every crisis, they would stop fixing the kingdom itself. Exactly as before. The Chancellor eventually addressed the crowd alone. For the first time in decades, he admitted failure. Not excuses. Not politics. Failure. The people listened. Some forgave him. Many didn't. That was healthy. Trust rebuilt honestly lasted longer than trust demanded by authority. That evening, the Queen candidates requested a private meeting. All 7 were present. The atmosphere felt different now. No suspicion. No competition. Only honesty. Seraphine spoke first. When this began, I thought you were hiding power. She smiled faintly. Now I think you were hiding peace. Morel laughed softly. That's a strange way to describe it. It fits. Celestine looked directly at me. The visions have stopped. I blinked. Completely. She nodded. We haven't seen another future since Halden died. Master Rowan, who had quietly entered moments earlier, smiled. Because the crossroads has passed. The crossroads. Rowan sat slowly, still weakened from his wound. The visions appeared because too many futures balanced on a single decision. And now, they no longer do. I looked toward the window. Rain clouds had finally disappeared. So destiny has settled. Rowan shook his head. No. You simply reminded people that destiny isn't something one person carries alone. His words lingered with me. For years I had believed hiding was the only responsible choice. Perhaps I had hidden for too long. Over the following weeks, the palace began changing. Not dramatically, quietly. Captain Aldrin reorganized the royal guard. No commander could issue orders alone anymore. Every emergency command required independent confirmation. The system became slower. It also became honest. The surviving pages of the ledger were copied and preserved. Instead of locking them away, the Chancellor ordered them open to the Royal Council. Not every name could be restored. Many families had vanished generations earlier. But those who remained finally learned the truth. Their ancestors had existed. History had simply refused to remember them. The Queen candidates also changed. Seraphine abandoned several harsh policies she had once supported. I kept seeing kingdoms ruled by fear, she admitted. I don't want to become that queen. Morel left the palace every week to meet ordinary citizens. I've spent too long listening only to nobles. The others found their own paths. None became perfect. Each became more aware. The visions had ended. The lessons remained. As for me, I left the palace more often than I stayed. Not because I wished to disappear again, because I wanted to see the kingdom without walls. One afternoon, I returned to the village where I had once burned the last document bearing my family name. The old bridge still stood. The river still carried fallen leaves toward the sea. An elderly carpenter recognized me. I know you. I smiled. I doubt it. You fixed this bridge years ago. I only replaced 2 beams. He laughed. Enough to keep it standing. He offered me tea. We sat together until sunset. He never asked my name. For the first time, neither did I feel the need to hide it. Several days later, Captain Aldrin found me by the river. The council voted. And they want to create a new office. I sighed. I already dislike where this is going. He laughed. So do I. They asked me to offer it anyway. What office? He handed me the official decree. Keeper of Public Records. I stared at the title. The irony almost made me laugh. The man without a recorded identity is being asked to protect everyone else's. Aldrin folded his arms. No secrets. No erased names. No hidden ledgers. Only truth. I looked at the flowing river before answering. I'll accept, but only on one condition. What condition? No record can ever again disappear because it's inconvenient. Captain Aldrin extended his hand. Agreed. For the first time in many years. I shook someone's hand without wondering whether I would someday have to erase the memory of meeting them. The first ledger I signed carried no noble decree, no military order, no royal privilege. It was a birth certificate. A little girl born in the Southern District 2 days after the attack on the capital. Her father, a baker with flowers still clinging to his sleeves, stood awkwardly before my desk. Is this really all? I smiled. Unless you've decided to change her name already. He laughed nervously. No. I stamped the document. There. He accepted it with both hands, as though it were made of gold. My daughter will be remembered. No. I corrected gently. She'll never need to wonder whether she was forgotten. After he left, I remained staring at the empty doorway. That single record meant more than all the titles the palace could have offered me. No hidden archives. No erased histories. Just a child whose existence would never again depend on someone's convenience. Weeks passed. The capital slowly healed. Markets reopened. The eastern gate was rebuilt. The palace walls still bore scars from the invasion, but no one rushed to cover them with marble. The damage remained visible. A reminder. Kingdoms that pretended nothing had happened were destined to repeat it. One evening, Master Rowan visited my office. He looked older than ever. The wound in his shoulder had healed, but age had finally caught up with him. You've been avoiding me, he said. I've been working. You've been hiding behind work. I smiled. Old habits. He placed a small wooden box on my desk. I found something. Inside lay a silver ring. Plain. Unadorned. Only one symbol had been carved into its inner band. A single feather, the emblem of the silent court. My expression hardened. Where? In my own house. I looked up sharply. It was delivered yesterday. No messenger? He shook his head. No footprints. Only one folded piece of paper rested beneath the ring. I unfolded it. 7 words had been written in elegant black ink. Some names are safer left unfinished. No signature. No seal. Only certainty. The silent court wasn't gone. It had merely stepped back into the shadows. Captain Aldrin wanted to mobilize every available guard. The Chancellor wanted to close the city gates. Several ministers demanded immediate arrests. I refused them all. They want us to panic. They murdered Halden. Aldrin argued. They sent this into the palace. And now they want us looking everywhere except where we should. The Chancellor folded his arms. Where should we look? I placed the silver ring onto the council table. At ourselves. Confused silence followed. The silent court survived for generations because kingdoms kept creating people willing to erase inconvenient truths. I looked at each official in turn. If we become afraid enough to hide records again, they've already won. No one argued. That night, I walked through the capital alone. No guards. No escorts. No disguises. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to disappear. The city had changed. Or perhaps, I had. A little boy ran into me while chasing a wooden wheel. I'm sorry, sir. It's all right. He looked up curiously. My father says you're the man who keeps everyone's names safe. I laughed quietly. That's a very important job. He nodded seriously. So nobody gets lonely. Before I could answer, he ran off. Children often understood truths adults complicated. The day of the final selection arrived beneath a clear autumn sky. The 7 queen candidates stood once more inside the royal selection hall. The same marble floor. The same towering pillars. The same throne. Yet nothing felt the same. There were no whispered schemes. No hidden bargains. No frightened glances toward me. Only expectation. The High Chancellor addressed the assembly. The crystal of succession was destroyed. A murmur spread through the nobles. So today, the future of this kingdom will be decided differently. He stepped away from the throne. No prophecy. No visions. No secret records. Only judgment. One by one, each candidate spoke before the council and the people. Seraphine admitted her past mistakes without excuse. Morel presented plans for rebuilding the eastern districts before expanding the palace. Celestine spoke last. She looked neither at the throne nor at the nobles. She looked toward the citizens gathered beyond the great doors. A kingdom cannot be protected by hiding the truth. Silence followed. Then, applause. Not from the nobles. From the people. It spread through the hall like a rising tide. The council cast its votes. When the final seal was counted, Lady Celestine was chosen. She didn't smile immediately. Instead, she walked down from the platform. Toward me. The hall watched in complete silence. She stopped an arm's length away. For years, she said quietly, you believed the safest thing you could do was disappear. I didn't answer. She extended her hand. You were wrong. After a long pause, I accepted it. Not as a subject greeting a queen. Not as a hero accepting praise. Simply as one person acknowledging another. Months later, Master Rowan passed away peacefully in his sleep. His funeral was small. Exactly as he had requested. No monuments. No statues. Only books donated to schools throughout the kingdom. His final letter contained a single sentence addressed to me. A name remembered honestly is stronger than any prophecy. Years passed. Children learned history from records that no longer contained suspicious gaps. Families rediscovered forgotten ancestors. Officials came and went. Queens ruled. Councils argued. Life continued. Sometimes travelers asked why the kingdom had no statues of its greatest protector. The answer was always the same. He asked us not to build one. Instead, every public archive carried a simple inscription above its entrance. No life shall be erased because it is inconvenient. I visited those archives from time to time, not to check whether my own name appeared among the records. That no longer mattered. I had once believed identity came from bloodlines, titles, or recognition. I had been wrong. Identity was not something the world granted. It was something preserved through truth, choice, and the courage to stop hiding when hiding only protected lies. As I closed the newest ledger of the year, sunlight spilled across the pages. Thousands of names. None missing. None erased. For the first time in my life, the future before me was one no prophecy had ever shown. And that was exactly the future I wanted.